Hey, how's it going? I wanted to get a video across to you to basically show you step by step exactly how to work out your targeted protein intakes on a day-to-day basis. So one of the reasons why we need to do this is because when we lose weight, your body doesn't know where to lose that weight from, so it automatically loses weight from both muscle tissue and fat mass as well. So between a combination of those two things, we lose weight. Now, what we need to do, of course, to make sure that your body composition is improving throughout your weight loss journey is basically we need to tell your body to preserve the lean muscle tissue to as much of an extent as possible during the process of weight loss. So how we do that is a combination of two factors. Number one, intense exercise that tests that muscle tissue basically. So it could be it could be HIIT workouts, it could be, strength and conditioning sessions, whatever regime you've got going off at the minute will be absolutely fine. And you'll have already ticked that box. Now, on the nutrition side of things, we need to tick the protein box because the exercise plus getting the correct levels of protein per day now essentially signals to your body that we need to preserve that muscle tissue whilst we're losing weight. If we're preserving the muscle tissue, by default, the only place basically your body will lose weight from now, proportionately speaking, is body fat. So there will probably be a little bit of, potentially a bit of lean muscle tissue lost, even when you use this, but the amount will be dramatically reduced if you get this right. So that means not only are you losing weight, but your body composition is improving week in, week out also. So as you can see here, I've just a simple Word document here just so that you can see what I'm doing. So working out your protein intakes, it's super simple. Literally, we have your body weight in kilograms, and all we do is multiply that between 1 and 1.8. Now, it's debatable. You can, government recommendations are between 0.8 onwards. I would like to see everybody multiplying their body weight in kilograms by 1 or above. I think the government recommendations are slightly lower, so that's why I've set it as this. If you're a bodybuilder and you're super into crafting your muscles in your body into Greek god standards and things like that, that's absolutely fine. That's a bit different, and you may want to go a bit higher. So this is obviously appropriate for the vast majority of us who are essentially wanting to lose weight, get into better shape, and potentially even increase the muscle tissue during this process too. So what we need to do is use that particular scale as a result. So let's say, for example, I'm 100 kilograms, not 1,000, 100, and I'm going to multiply that by, obviously I'm only using this particular figure for ease of maths. Let's say you might be 120 kilograms, you might be 80 kilograms. It's obviously just put your own details in there personally. So I'm going to use 100 just for ease of maths. 100 multiplied by, let's say, for example, if I'm going to the gym, I've been going a while now, I'm not taking it massively seriously. The sessions aren't that long, they're not that intense. You might be sort of choosing a figure a little bit lower down on that particular scale. So I might, let's say, use 1.1 as my figure. So that equals, obviously, 110 grams of protein per day. Now, let's say, for example, I could be, let's say, 100 kilograms again. And let's say, for example, actually, over the last couple of months and future months, we're actually going to be aiming for, 3 or 4 really good quality, much more intense sessions. So for that reason, we might actually go up a little bit more and actually use a number that's a little bit higher up in that scale. So I might, let's say, for example, multiply it by 1.4 instead, for example, which of course equals 140 grams of protein per day. And let's say, for example, actually, you might be slightly different to that. You might be pretty much training like a semi-pro athlete at the moment, for example. You could be training like maybe 5 or 6 times a week, and muscle recovery is obviously going to be hugely important to you. So getting your protein intakes is going to be very, very important. Let's say, for example, we might use the number even further up that scale. So let's say, for example, 1.6 or 1.7 even. So 100 kilograms multiplied by 1.7, and again that's of course 170 grams of protein per day. It's very difficult to speak and type at the same time, as you can clearly see. I'm a typical bloke. I'm going to do one thing at once basically. But anyway, so you get the idea. So, you know, it really does depend on your training, also your personal preference too, also the amount of recovery you have, the length of your sessions. You know, if your session, you know, you might want to increase that sort of scale of on the protein side of things and use a higher number. For example, if you know you might be training for an hour and a half every session, so somebody else might be training for 45 minutes per session. So the person that's training longer generally might need more of an increase in protein intakes. So anywhere within that scale is absolutely fine. On the point of safety also, so a lot of people ask about, you know, higher protein intakes and that can have detrimental effects on your health and things like that. It's simply not the case unless you're hitting literally like, you know, multiplying your body weight in kilograms by, you know, 4 or something like that. So literally that would be 4 times this amount here, for example, and you're doing that every day, day in, day out, and even at that level, it's debatable to what extent that would have detrimental effects on your health. But it's incredibly difficult to consume that much protein on a day-to-day basis anyway. So yeah, you just don't need to worry too much at all. Well, you don't need to worry at all about it, providing that you're in and around this sort of scale that we're working with here. So the safety is absolutely fine unless you're literally having 4 times the amount I'm recommending here. So yeah, don't worry about the safety side of things. So hopefully this is a really, really clear and concise method of you know, working out exactly how to work out your protein intakes. Now, just to go on another step further, you know your protein intakes in grams now. You might need to know how many calories that takes up from your calorie budget and how to work out your percentages. So we use this top one as an example. So there's actually 4 calories in 1 gram of protein. And we know at the top there, we've got 110 grams. So 110 multiplied by 4 is 440 calories. So let's say, for example, you know, your recommendation is to consume 1,440 calories per day. Of course, I'm just making this up just to make the maths easier. That basically means that on carbs and fat, carbs and fat, you can actually set aside 1,000 calories now for those particular areas. So now we can start seeing how this is all pieced together, like how much protein you can consume, and then carbs and fat. Again, we've said this before, but carbs and fat can fluctuate a lot. It doesn't make any difference really for the purpose of weight loss, providing that you're hitting your recommended calorie intakes and protein intakes. The carbs and fat section can fluctuate dramatically without any effect to weight loss, basically. So don't worry too much about that either. So hopefully this gives you a really good, clear insight into, you know, what you need to do just within 2 seconds, really, less than a minute, surely, to work out your protein intakes, and you know exactly the amount of grams that you need per day. And now you can use that in your diet diary, or it could be, you know, if you're tracking on something else, like for example MyFitnessPal or something along those lines. You can obviously, you know, use this as your in the goals section on your particular nutrient tracking app. So it could be anything, you know, if you're on Android or if you're on, you know, using an iPhone or something, obviously, you know, you'll have your own personal health apps on there that you can use. Doesn't matter which one that you're using, really. So obviously this is going to help you there as well. So what I want you to do now is literally take a minute or 2 aside to go through this step by step and work out your own personal protein intakes. Simple as that. Cheers, guys.